It's not my problem. When I feel heavy metal, and I'm pissed and I'm beat when I lie and I'm missing all of the time when I'm never sure what I need. Please let me shout.
All right. Welcome to the Prospect Podcast. We have a great guest on here, Kevin Kostibos, head coach of Summit. We're excited to talk to him. As always, I'm Coach Schumann. I have Coach D with me to the left. I'm just working on some imaging as we're bringing Coach in there, just because we had a little revisionist things we had to do here today. But we're excited to talk to Coach. He's a guy who's, for the last 12 years, has been the head coach at Summit. Has had fantastic run at Summit, which has a great history of football.
Sure.
Really great history of football. We'll talk a little bit about it, but played for the guy who was his predecessor, who he was a part of the group that unfortunately killed our Cinderella story back in the day in 2012, and did it with authority, which still hurts to this day.
Yeah.
And you guys had that special group too, which was
Yes.
which you guys were all pointing for that. That was like a 2-year reach to the summit, no pun intending, with the undefeated team that was with that group. So but yeah, I mean, and played at East Hanover. Hanover Park, I'm sorry. East Hanover's the town. East Hanover Park High School, and was the standout player there. So we're really excited to talk to Coach and talk some football, and really dive into some of the things that he might be dealing with at Summit, some of the good, the bad, and the ugly stories, and diving into some of the things and the changes in football. So no better coach to talk to about it. He's one of the few coaches out there with some significant amount of longevity as a head coach. So welcome to the podcast, Coach.
Coach, I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me, Coach D. This is love talking ball. So this is love these opportunities. Kind of explain a little more about our program, kind of what we do, and just like I said, just talk high school football.
No doubt, Coach. If you could, I dived a little bit into it, but if you could dive into like we talked a little bit offline. You're playing history.
Sure.
How you got into coaching, what you decided, and then kind of your journey as a coach to really the point where you are today. Obviously, taking Summit to some really great heights. So talk a little bit about that.
So I played under John Liberato at Hanover Park, and I got out of there in '99. And then I went on and played for the great Jim Margraf, God rest his soul, Johns Hopkins. I came back and I started my coaching career at Livingston under Bill Tracy. My father was a head coach at Washington Hills for about 25 years. He gave that when I went to college. He gave that job up so that he could kind of watch me play. And then when I graduated, he came on the Livingston staff over. It was Bill Tracy's DC, and I ended up coaching the freshmen, which was my first coaching gig, which was great. 2 years later, John Liberato, who coached me in high school, gave me a call and said, "Listen, we're going over to Summit. I want you to come." And so I worked for him for, I believe, 7 years, and then I took the job over in 2013, and been here ever since.
It's quite a story. It's really so talk a little bit about so when you went to Johns Hopkins, first of all, what was that like? That's become now like a legendary Division III program.
So it was a great experience.
It wasn't that way back then, right? It was.
My senior class was the first one to win the Centennial, as they've kind of created this run. So my senior year, my junior year, we tied for the Centennial. We went to the playoffs, which is the first time that Hopkins had gone. And then my senior year was that began this 20-year run or so of Centennial kind of dominance. and then going to the Division III playoffs. It was fantastic. Again, it's one of those hybrid schools because you've got Division I lacrosse, but you've got Division III football.
Right.
So you're playing on at Homewood, which is a fantastic stadium. So you have Division I facilities, Division I weight room. So it was really a Division I program, kind of wrapped into a Division III league. And like I said, it was exactly what I needed. Had a great time there. It started, was a captain. And as I got out, realized kind of that my football journey, although my playing days were over, I wasn't ready to give it up.
Right.
Then it came back into coaching. So I came home and I took a freshman job as I was going back to school because I went to college to be a lawyer. I thought I was going to be a big time lawyer. That did not.
Well,
work
I mean,
out.
listen, you go to Johns Hopkins, you don't say, hey, I'm going to go there and be a teacher. Like, you don't know, like, that's ain't exactly the fun.
Both my parents were teachers, and I swore I would never teach, and yet here I am.
No shit.
So I.
Funny how that works, buddy. It's funny how that works.
My mother still doesn't forgive me. We send you to Johns Hopkins to be a teacher. So it is what it is. So I get back into it and get on Bill Tracy's staff, which was a fantastic experience. Bill Tracy is one of the finest head coaches in New Jersey. That's St. Joseph. Still going. And then I got to work for my father, which was great. He was the head coach at Watching Hills for about 25 years. Other stints at Ridge, Warren Hills, and so on. So I got to work with both those guys and really kind of hone the craft. And then John gave me a call around 2006, 2007, and he was at New Providence, and he said, "Listen, I'm going to take the job at Summit. I'd like you to come." And I was ready. I was ready to to do my own thing, and kind of the rest is history. We got here in 2007, and then I took over in 2013.
Phenomenal stuff. It's really interesting that you really were with the same kind of group of people for most of the time, which I think is unusual, at least in today's world, from a coaching standpoint. That you played for Liberato, you end up coaching with him, and then obviously you end up taking over the program. What were some of the things that coming from, although obviously at Hopkins you had a different experience as far as a player standpoint, but what were some of the things that you took with you that you learned from Coach Liberato, and then what were some of the things that you thought, okay, I'd like to do this differently. I'd like, that you kind of put your own stamp on as far as we took.
The biggest thing that, especially when I took the job over, as you know, we just finished up a 12-0 run.
Right.
So it's kind of weird.
It's a hell of a way to like, hey, let's go.
Where do you go from here?
Thank you.
How are you going to improve?
Just don't screw it up.
Exactly. So you take an old program. We had, that senior class day, as you know, was incredibly successable.
Incredible.
I mean, we graduated, I think, like 20 of 22 starters. And so it was looked at kind of like, I don't want to say a rebuilding year, but kind of what's going to happen.
Right.
But for us, within these walls, we kind of the culture that we created. Yeah. And that was the one thing that I really credit John with, is when he brought us all in, the staff, the whole thing was all about culture, was the culture that we're going to create, how we're going to do things, and the way that we're going to do them. And so it was never about the talent. Or it was never about, who do we have, who's coming back. It was about, hey, listen, here's our culture. It's plug and play. This is the way we do things. This is how we do it. And I'll tell you, and we had some very good players that struggled with our culture, that, hey, listen, this is the standard that we set. And this is kind of what you have to abide by. And John took a hard line on that. And that's one thing I really took from him, was you can't settle in regard to culture. Hey, if this is the expectations can't be lower. Okay. You can't lower the bar. This is kind of what it is. And the kids that are going to battle, the ones that you want out there, are the ones that are going to, adhere to that standard. So when I took the job over, it wasn't about, it wasn't about copying John or saying, oh, listen, we're going to do things, differently. The adage that I took is, hey, listen, this is just the next era of Summit football. The program was successful, before we got here, and the program will be successful after I leave. And the big thing was, hey, what can I take from John and keep that as our core, and then where do I see this as the next era? So the big thing that we had was, our slogan of pride and discipline. The one thing that and this is something that we always talk about, we start each year off with, understanding, pride is being proud of who you are and where you come from. And we have huge discussions about that. Why Summit is such a great place, the community, who you're playing for, discipline, obviously what you're doing when no one's watching. Everybody goes hard when coach is watching. What happens when coach turns his back? What happens when the teacher turns their back? What happens when your parents turn their back? And that's what really separates that. So that was the mantra. That was the mantra that we had for the first 7 years. And then when I took the job over, I kept that, but I just added tradition to it. So we're now pride, discipline, tradition. And the tradition piece that I added to it was honoring those of the past to affect those in the future. So just as, the players are looking to honor the players who've come before them and then set the tone for the players coming after them, I'm looking to honor the coaches and the administration who've come before and then hopefully set the stage for those that come after. Understanding what Coach Liberato had kind of set up here and saying, listen, I'm going to take, what's here and I'm going to keep evolving it, as we move on. It's not a break. It's not, this was the Liberato era. Now it's the Kostibos era. This is just the era of Summit football moving forward. And we're going to continue to be successful. And it seems to have really caught on.
I think that's a great point. And that means that, the tradition of Summit football remains the important thing and the main aspect of what always can go on in the future. That it's bigger than any one person, which I think is really cool.
Right. And that's totally opposite, I think, a lot of what culture is nowadays, right? Where, the head coach name is always like, some of these guys want to be in the spotlight only, right? And it's about them and it's how, like my team this or my offense this, right? Where the individual is really kind of at the forefront of everything that we're talking about now with the world of NIL and transfer portal and all this stuff, especially at the higher levels, right? Where now it the name on the back of the jersey is almost more important to a lot of guys than what's on the front. And I think that the approach of, hey, the name changes, but this is still Summit, right? This is still what's built on it. So, just because it's a different head coach doesn't mean that this culture changes or, because I think that can stand the test of time, whereas individuals fade away, they go other places, things happen and things change, especially at the high school level. You really don't know kind of what that is. The stability of that model, I think, is different than how majority of coaches and just places approach it, right? You know what I mean? Even administrators trickling down, you absolutely see that.
It's one of those things that, success is, can be, somewhat superficial. Right. And what I mean by that is that it takes a village. Okay. You always have a head coach. You always have someone at the forefront, but let's face it, success is built on the backs of everybody. And, it's one of those where, in a day and age today where, let's face it, there is a selfishness to this. Like you said, NILs, transferring, public versus private. What can schools do for me kind of attitude? That's not what we do here. And that's never what we've done here. And again, that has to be emulated from the head coach down. I can't, lead a program where it's all about me and then tell the kids, hey, listen, you guys need to be unselfish. It's hypocritical. It's hypocritical. So, for us here, we involve, a ton of people. We involve our administration. We involve guys who've played here, 25, 30 years ago. We involve the youth. We involve the youth coaches. And that's always been our adage of it takes everybody. And like I said, it has been a recipe that has led us to great success. And I think that's something that, we really hold value to. It's never been a one person show, and it never will be.
Right. And that's football, right? Like that is it's the ultimate team game of 11 guys trying to do your job on a single play. And when one guy doesn't, the whole thing kind of breaks down, and I think that is something that's difficult. It's what separates football from everything else, right? Like, because, you look at other sports, you can win more of your games without, guys really coming together and do some of those things. But, this guy can't score a touchdown unless these guys block or that guy snaps or this is what, like, you know what I mean? The buy-in has to be across the board, and to get, high school kids to buy into something where maybe they're not the superstar, they're not scoring the touchdowns, or it's something bigger than they can really see or what they've been kind of plugged for so long, especially with the way social media kind of isolates those guys or puts them in a certain type of spotlight. If I'm not that guy, then what am I doing? How am I helping this team? Or, what am I doing for this? But that winning culture, when it all comes together, like, you might remember plays or whatnot, but you'll be talking about the championships, right? Like that's the bigger picture stuff.
We as coaches are up against, different problems, at school. I think everybody revolves around the fact of trying to create, this culture of selflessness, because again, there's always, who's scoring touchdowns, who's putting up stats, who should be getting the ball more. I mean, and that's in any sport. Okay.
Right.
But, I think as time has gone on, the one thing that you're starting to see, okay, is the fact of the trickle down from the NFL to the college to the NIL and then to high school. And now, you're trying to combat these things that are, several levels above, because this is what they see. They see the social media. Okay. They see, they see that, the stats of this, they see, this kid in a clip and so on and so forth. And, they're like, well, why isn't that me? Or why am I not doing that? And so on and so forth. And it's tough sometimes, but, our philosophy here has always been, the we over me. And that starts with our staff, our culture, our administration, trying to kind of to push, this team first concept. But as the time goes on, I mean, you guys know it's getting harder and harder to do that.
Well, there's no doubt. I think that one of the things that is changed a lot is that you really have to focus as a coach. And I haven't obviously coached as a head coach in kind of since COVID, so the era has changed a lot even since then, right? But controlling the things that you could control, because all the other outside factors a lot of times either have nothing to do with you or things you're not going to be able to control anyway. And I think that allows you to have that longevity that you're having, and a lot of other coaches. And I think the other thing is that, you're true to your values, as a coach. Like, I think that reflects with the players too, right? So they know if they play for Summit, right? Because you're in a town that's a lot of very highly educated people, very, very, for the most part, good financial means, can pretty much probably do whatever they want to do for the most part, within reason. And some absolutely can do whatever they want to do if they wanted to, right? So that ability to focus on that, I think the town knows and the players know what they're getting when they come to you, and that resonates and allows for a lot of success, because I think towns like Summit and schools like Ramapo and Old Tappan and Rumson, and some of those schools where you do have maybe like higher net worth individuals that live in those towns, the public school coaches have figured out a formula of how to consistently get athletes to want to be a part of their program and have success and leverage the resources that they do have in the community that do have to be able to be successful. And I think that it's a lot of times people look and say, oh, that school has all the advantages. But what they don't realize is that those people also can go wherever they want. right?
Right.
Like, literally, like there's two sides to that coin, right?
Yes,
like I talk to Dunn about this all the time, and Klaus about this. I coached with them for 1 year's assistant. I'm, good friends with those guys, and they've done a great job at Old Japan. And they always say, like, there's really two sides to it. So it's about controlling what you control, building those relationships, building the community, and having your value system, because they literally can, for not all, but obviously a lot of people can pay and get whatever training they need, pay to go to whatever school they want to go to. And they're choosing, your school because of the things that you are bringing to the table, the ability to do the things that you guys do in the community. And I think that that's what makes it unique. Like, I think that sometimes people outside look at it, like people maybe who are maybe from a middle class community say, we cannot do. No, you can, because they've actually focused more into the community than anybody else has. And that's kind of what I've seen with Rumson too. They do a great job of that as well.
Point Borough does a great job with that too. And I think, Dave, just to add one thing to that, I think the involvement with the youth is
agreed,
absolutely pivotal. And Coach Shu can attest to this more than anybody now, since he's gone into that youth world of coaching his son and seeing on his end maybe the lack of involvement of the high schools, or just maybe not what we're used to.
So strong, though. That's the amazing thing. Even though the high schools have not been super involved, which I don't understand that part of it, but maybe it's because there's two in the same town, and those kids can cross over. Kind of, it's weird. It's just weird,
It's not like where I'm at, where you have that geographical line,
each line for the youth teams, but and that's just kind of an AYF thing, I guess, maybe. But the community is really strong, like athletically, like both teams,
right? It doesn't, irregardless of
powerhouses,
right? Like football, basketball, like it's a lot. The
powerhouses,
yeah. Which I would assume Summit is very similar.
I've said this for a while. If Summit, if we kept, and this is just the God's honest truth, if we kept all of our kids, I don't think Summit would hardly lose a game in anything.
I agree.
I really believe that.
Yeah.
Because, the biggest thing that we deal with here is, I mean, you're right. People have, there's a lot of people that are financially,
right. They have the means.
They have the means, okay, to send kid to explore these other opportunities. And so for us, it comes down to the fact of, hey, we have to show them what we're providing, okay, and what separates us. Because when you look at, the academic piece, the academic piece is very similar. Summit is there's a ton of academic rigor here is equivalent to the highest of publics and the highest of privates.
Yep.
So, if you are an AP student here versus an AP student in the private, you're going to the same schools.
And the people around you are all, obviously, a lot of the kids are very smart too, as well. So you have
even that next level below your AP or your whatever, right?
Yeah, you're dealing with there's a academic rigor here is there's an emphasis on it. This is not a factory. The kid, this is something where, listen, there is, when we talk about athletic based education, that's true here. Trying to incorporate, I've said this a lot of times, the student athlete, Summit is proof that the student athlete is not dead.
Right.
That there is a correlation between athletics and education, especially here.
Yep.
So, for us, like I said, the big thing that we deal with is, like I said, is the public versus private debate.
Right.
And, so what we try to do is we try to show, okay, listen, we're highlighting, okay, what are the major differences? How is, what is Summit versus a Del Barton, or what is Summit versus a Seton Hall? And really what it comes down to here, and I think the kids that we've kept will tell you, is it's the personal touch. Okay, it's the fact that we started with the community based. Like I tell this to people all the time. The lifeblood of any high school program is your youth organization. That's where it all starts. Okay, and we have a great relationship with our youth program. Some of our youth coaches have been high school coaches. The gentleman Rick Carbone, who ran the youth program for us for 15 years, is on our staff. The guy now, Matt DeFonso, who runs it, his son is our freshman coach. So there is a huge connect between those two programs, and I think that helps. We're also we are old school here. I'm still a firm believer in the multi-sport athlete. Okay, like I think that is incredibly important.
That is a big benefit too, to go to the public school.
One of the things that I hear constantly is the fact of, hey, as you get to the privates, it's a lot of sports specialization. You're here to play this.
Yep.
Well, you're here. You're here to compete, and if that means you're competing in three things, compete in three things. If that's you're competing in two, compete in two. I'm very big on, I don't want to say you don't force anybody, but I push the kids, say compete. There's no reason you can't be a multi-sport athlete. I played 3 sports in high school. I was a football player, a wrestler, and a baseball player. And I understand, the plight of 3 with academics and so on. It's not easy. But when you look at it overall, and we're really looking at this from a college preparedness perspective, time management, understanding the stress of, playing a sport and then, trying to get your classwork done. All of these things are tools that maybe there's no class for, there's no syllabus for, but these are the lessons they're learning. And I think, for here, it also deals with a ton of injury prevention. It deals with, a ton of, different social skills, different social settings. Everybody talks about you want your son or your daughter to be well-rounded. Well, if they're only doing the same thing all the time, how well-rounded can they be?
Right.
So it's
I find it boring.
Yeah, doing this.
Used to love that switch up going, hey, Thanksgiving Day happened. Now it's basketball. Like, okay, end of the season. Now we're just that change up, right? Of
you
like,
almost
hey,
had
we're
your
going
friend,
to something different.
Your
You were ready to go.
Were based on the season.
We've had that conversation too, socially. Or you're the best football player, but you're the 7th best basketball player. How do you adjust to coming off the bench from being a starter? Or, you know what I mean? Like that type of stuff is pivotal for development.
It's funny. The question is, and I'll post some of our kids is, why don't you just want to have fun with your friends? And it's funny. That's what, when we look at our mantra this year for our team, it was having fun with our friends. Because this was a team when we came in, we had a 2-year starting quarterback who's coming back for his senior year. So very rarely do you have a 3-year starting quarterback. So also a very good lacrosse player, multi-sport athlete, very good student, tears his Achilles like the first day of lacrosse. Okay, devastating. It's devastating. So now we're going in with, okay, who's our quarterback going to be? How is this going to work? So one of our very good running backs is like, Coach, I'll play quarterback. So it was kind of like, okay, you're going to play quarterback now. And so now it's kind of, well, we're trying to build kind of what we do to him. And it's one of those things I make the joke about, I make the joke about this to our guys. I said, in that spring is when John Librato was still with us up until I think probably like April and May. And then his son, Nick, who is the head coach at Hanover Park, who, was funny. I coached him in high school because even though John was the head coach, I was his position coach, to talk about full circle. So, John is, decided to go over to Hanover Park, which, we talked about for years, was the fact of, coaching with your son. And I can't think of anything better. So when this opportunity happened, it was kind of like, all right, I'm going to make the jump to Hanover Park. And I was like, great, completely support it. So it's funny because we make the notion of, we worked the entire offseason for, an offense we weren't going to run, for a quarterback we weren't going to have, to be called by a coach that wasn't going to be here. So because he was so now you're starting fresh, and because again, most of our kids are multi-sport. A lot of them are baseball, lacrosse players. So you really don't have them in the spring. So now we're starting fresh, starting in June. So it's kind of like, okay, what can we do in the next month or so to kind of get us ready? So the big thing for us was, kind of taking the stress off the kids and saying, guys, football's about having fun with your friends. Like, that's all this is. If we can have fun with everything else will kind of fall into place. And that was kind of our mantra. And it really worked out well for us. The kids decided, hey, listen, we're just going to keep playing for the guy next to you. This group of seniors was very close, had played together kind of all the way up. they all were in the same social group, but they weren't all football players. Like our kind of do everything quarterback, running back from this year, Alex Schwark, was not a football player. He came out for football as a freshman. He was a baseball player growing up. That was kind of his passion. And then I'm like, listen, why don't you just try football? Just come out for it. And he did, and he just turned into a hell of a player. So for us, it's really kind of selling these kids on being able to do multiple things, being able to spend more time with your friends, and really enjoying what you're doing. One thing that I constantly hear from kids who are specialization kids who do something here is just how miserable they are. They're like, I don't want to do this. I have to.
They're so burnt out too. Once they get to a certain level, it's like they've been doing it since they were in third grade.
Where's the fun of the sport? Like that originally was kind of why we all did this. Hey, sport's supposed to be fun. You enjoy doing it, but now it's okay. Well, what can and again, going into that adage of, well, what can the sport give me? Where is it going to send me to college? What doors is it going to open up? What is it? What is it that I'm going to get out of this? And I think sometimes, that definitely taints the view of kids. Is they're kind of like, well, I have to go do this tournament because, I have to go to this club thing. I have to go here and do, where they don't want to do it.
I think that's a great point. The other thing is too, that I think parents, I honestly, even though I'm not really a huge fan of what's going on with college sports because of all, but I understand it all. I understand it, but like, it's one of those things, like, I get it, but I also miss it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's one of those things. But one of the strange consequences of it is, I think it's going to bring parents back to reality, recruiting wise. It's sad. I do 100% think it's sad, because in the sense that high school players aren't getting recruited as much as they were. But we also got a little bit out of control in our assessment of what the levels of our players were, right? Too.
Absolutely.
Like, we're tabbing fifth graders, like, we're putting them on these lists and rankings and all this stuff. And we talk about this a lot, Kev, where, football has kind of been shielded from that a little bit, just based on the structure of how things are and whatnot. And because it's more of a physical sport, you know what I mean? Like, but you look at these other sports and you got kids ranked in baseball in third grade. You got lacrosse kids that are 8 years old and they're going to this national showcase of, hey, I'm a top 25 guy. And it's like, buddy, you can't even tie your shoes
you
yet.
Definitely deal with that at Summit.
Well,
there's no doubt.
That was where I was going with it. Is because those kids, like, those guys have the means to go and do that and travel and play on these national teams and all of that.
What's interesting about this is, again, most times, and I'll have this talk with parents, because this happens in every town. I'm also I live in Hanover, and I'm the president of the Hanover baseball, the baseball association or whatever it is. And so even in every town, okay, you have these, you have this thought of the travel and club and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
The reality, and here's the reality, and this is just my opinion because this is what I've seen. Very rarely has the best kid, okay, in your youth middle school leagues been the best kid at the high school league. It hardly ever happens. Hardly ever happens.
We all know that kid we played against in middle school that was an absolute hammer. Yes. And then when you get to high school, where did so-and-so? Oh, he's still there. He's still playing. He just ain't that guy anymore because he hit puberty sooner or whatever it was.
Third and fourth graders. Okay. And again, is there a different level? Yes. This fourth grader is dynamite. Okay. This fourth grader can hardly throw and catch. Well, is it the fact that this fourth grader was overly trained and has been practicing, or is he just athletically better right now in fourth grade? But
is he older? Is he older? So that's the biggest thing. You could have a kid, the way that some of these, North Jersey's a little different as far as the age group, but you could have a kid every quarter of a year, and this is what I found from being in youth, is a huge difference in growth spurts for kids. So a kid who's, like my kid's group, he's 10, okay? So, but like in football, July 1's the cutoff, okay? He's June 4th. All right. He's literally the youngest player on his. Now, he's really good. He does really well, but he's the youngest player. Now, there are kids that are so dominant that are almost a whole year older. Now, it's hard to know. Like, is that kid really going to be great? Is he really going to be great? Or is he just literally a year older physically? Like, he might be still good. It's not that he's not good.
What we've gotten away from, is, and again, we've gotten away from what I think the essence of youth sports is not success, it's retention.
Correct.
The longer that these kids play, the better they're going to be. We have no idea what a kid's going to look like at 15, 16, 17. And the fact of the matter is,
you look at their parents and have an idea.
Oh, yeah. Yes. But too many kids, are discouraged at 8, 9, and 10 because they're not the best players. Right. They're not included in all this. So they decide, okay, I'll go and try something else. When you have no idea what kind of player they were. You go back 15 years or so, 20, when you didn't have as many clubs and on all these things, to where everybody kind of played and you played all the way through. And then you saw a lot of these kids, I think, stop playing before they even hit their real stride. So how many kids, and I'll use some to how many kids are walking the halls that should be playing a sport that aren't, because in 4th or 5th grade, they were told, well, you're not that good. So therefore, you should be playing something else, or you're not good enough to make the all-star team in 4th grade. So therefore, you should really play another sport or one of these kind of things. And I think that happens a lot. The good thing about football, especially here, is when I talk to, not only our youth coaches, but our younger level, our freshmen, is what's their attention? We want to keep kids. The more they practice, the better they're going to get. So right now, is it great to win games on the younger levels? It is. It's great to win games as freshmen and JV and so on and so forth. But my thing is, you don't want to sabotage and say, okay, listen, well, we won 9 games. We had 25 kids, but now we're down to 10 because these 15 had a terrible experience. Now they're gone. Well, I'd much rather say, listen, we had 25 and we're bringing 25. And now it's a whole nother year of practice. It's a whole nother year of being in the program. That's how you grow program. That's how you grow culture. And I think that is kind of a misnomer because, again, success is one of those things that is at the forefront of what everybody sees. And I think that the success of a real, youth or underlying level program is what's the retention rate? If you got the kids coming back out, you're going to be successful. Mm-hmm. You're going to be successful. And I think that's something that, gets kind of overlooked.
I think that's a great point. And I think football is a little unique in obviously the nature of the sport as far as, because you tackle and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But I agree with you. I mean, I always cite Little League baseball, and you're a baseball guy, so you understand this, as one of the examples of where they try to figure it out, but it's very hard for them to figure out how to create a retention environment. Like our group tried to, they have a club team attached. It's not attached, but attached. Like you could join the club. If you join the club team, you also have to play Little League baseball. Mm-hmm. But there's kind of like a negative to that too, as well, because what ends up happening is the kids are playing on that club team. They don't really want to be playing Little League. And what happens is, and their dads are more likely to not even have practice. So the kid who is playing on that team, because they try to disperse the kids, which is what you should do. They try to disperse the kids. What happens is, if you're a rec kid and you don't play travel, then you're kind of all of a sudden you start to get in this like, what is baseball for me, right? Which is one of the hard. And then obviously you get some kids that are not even playing in that local travel team. Sure. They're like on Ghost Lab, Ghost Lab A or whatever, and traveling all over the world.
What kid? Okay, and again, this is my response because again, I've heard that before.
It's very hard. It's very hard.
It is. But what kid? Okay, at 9, 10, 11 doesn't want to play with their friends? Most of them do. It's what are they hearing? Okay, about the fact that this league stinks.
That's correct.
You're too good for this league. Okay,
right.
We need to be playing. We need to be playing at a higher level. And again, the kids are going to do what they hear. A lot of this stuff starts at the dinner table. Okay, it starts at home.
Yep.
And
it's
again,
in the car ride after the game, like what's the first thing they hear?
It's all of those things. Okay. It's again, you know, you're dealing with not only, and that's why you not only have to sell the kids on your program, but you have to sell the parents on your program. And they have to buy in as well. And there are going to be times when you have kids that buy in and parents that do not. And that's the big problem. Is when the kids are like, you know what, I like what we're doing here. I like how this is done, blah, blah. But mom and dad are not okay with spreading the ball around, or mom and dad are not okay with, Johnny not playing, not starting or whatever it is. I don't know.
And I think the hardest thing is the rec thing, because rec is very, very important for the development aspect for a lot of kids, the majority of kids, and meaning like trying a sport, seeing how, if I like it, and I think that there has to be a better way of handling rec. Now, some of the small towns have had success in some cases in keeping rec only programs. I live in a big town where almost none of the rec programs are run by the rec department. So meaning like, obviously Little League is its own organization, right? I always try to figure out how it's like a quasi town private partnership deal. But it's a private nonprofit entity.
Yeah,
okay. So it's still a private nonprofit entity. Same thing with, like, in my town, same thing with like rec basketball, right? It's a Middletown rec, whatever they call it, rec, but it's a private owner of that. So it's kind of like a partnership almost between private organization and public. And there's pros and cons to that, like, I don't know in big towns if you could do it the way it used to work, because sometimes sometimes you hire the guy that's the rec director and he's phenomenal and he's willing to do everything he can. And sometimes it becomes up to that individual. Sometimes you hire a guy and he's really good at managing facilities, but not, promoting programs. Sure. So you really, in a rec situation, you almost need a guy like that's both. You know what I mean? Like that can do that if you're going to run your own rec programs.
It's the rec programs are difficult because, let's face it, the more elite. Okay. And the more elite you make your clubs or your teams at the younger level, the easier it is to coach. Right. I mean, let's just call it for what it is. When you get great kids, okay, teaching a kid to, and let's use baseball, teaching a kid to throw and catch is one of the most frustrating things that there can be done. And I've got a 12-year-old and an 8-year-old. Okay. I've gone through it and it is incredibly hard to do. So if you can get a team of kids who already know how to throw and catch, man, that makes it a lot easier. Okay, absolutely. Now it's like, hey, let's go play. So the question is, how many people are out there saying, listen, I'm willing to take this kid who can't throw and catch right now and teach them. Now, who knows, this kid's ultimate ceiling may be a 90 out of 100, maybe a 97. This kid could be a Major League Baseball player. But the fact is that at age 6 and 7, it was, things were more geared toward the kids that could just athletically already do this. And now this kid, okay, who had a ceiling, and again, this is obviously, just hypothetical, but this kid who had a Major League Baseball ceiling never plays because nobody took the time to, in a rec program, to be like, listen, I understand, we're going to teach you how to throw and catch. How many of those kids are out there? And I think that's what you're seeing. 10, 15 years ago, there wasn't as many of these elite teams and clubs. So everybody kind of got coached up. And as the kids kind of played, now what's happening is you're siphoning and filtering off earlier and earlier. A lot of these kids are getting left behind, and they're, they don't have time to develop into whatever player they were going to be. And unfortunately, in schools, not only everybody wants their player to be the star player and the best one. Well, the schools that, and again, Summit, I use an example, the schools that are constantly successful have not only stars, but we have a ton of role players.
That's it. That's the biggest thing, because especially at the high school level, that's where majority of your players are. If you have 2-3 guys that go on to play any level of college ball, that's a bonus, right? And then now subtract that as it is and do the math based off of the size of your school or the, you know, the size of your team, right? Group 1, group 5, whatever that is, right? But the bulk of our rosters are made up of role guys that probably aren't even going to play at the next level.
I've told this to parents, because again, I've talked with parents about when they're you know, do they want to come to Summit? Are they looking at other places? Do they want their kid to play football? And I've told them I'm going to coach more doctors and lawyers, okay, and bankers than I ever will college and professional athletes.
Right.
Okay, it's going to happen, but
no doubt,
what football is going to do, it's going to teach you these things. These are lessons that money can't buy. These are experiences that your kids are going to talk about for years.
Yep.
But, you know, there's some people that's not what they're in it for. And the problem is how do you, and this is what I know me as a coach and other coaches deal with, is how do you handle those situations? Because you're going to get people like, well, you know what? That's not what my kid's going to play college football. Well, your kid's 14 right now and sitting and going to be a freshman. I have no idea. He may be the best one in 8th grade right now. But you know what? In 3 years, okay, all of these kids are going to grow 5 or 6 inches, and your kid's not going to grow at all. And now he's a very good player. Because let's face it, there are a lot of very good football players that we have that don't get recruited because of just the genetics.
That's correct.
I mean, those measurables.
You know, the measurables are, you know, as much as I think, again, now you get into recruiting, but I think the measurables are kind of ridiculous. Like, hey, if you can play, you can play. But we've had kids, you know, who I think are stud football players, but they're like,
that's a little bit of our D3 perspective too, though, right?
Coach,
like,
you know, we like our quarterbers to be about 6'2".
They're just not going to take chances. They're not going to take chances.
You know, we like our DBs to be
on that side of it. Like, you almost don't blame them as well, because their job depends on that kid freaking, you know what I mean? So you see both sides, but when you're talking to a parent, they don't understand that, because Jimmy, Billy, that's the most important thing. And, you know, they are this is what's going to happen. And we highlight the Cooper Cups of the world that did make it, right? That smallest percentage that is the
and those guys always irregular. Those guys always will make it, Derek, because you know what it is? It's not just that they were good players. It's not the first thing people have to understand is they were still really good players. It's not like
correct.
Cooper Cup went to Eastern Washington. He didn't go to, you know, he did
right.
But their drive is different. Their drive to succeed is what makes them elite. Like,
and I think that's where more of the focus for parents
out.
Should be on, rather than how fast you run the 40. Right? Or how fast, you know, like some
teaching
of those measurables that are, teach them hard work, right? And that discipline and, you know, the stuff that you can control.
Well, and that's
what needs to be taught.
That's part of that. That's part of now the culture aspect, because let's face it, you got a lot of kids now coming in who are like, well, I've been told since 5th grade I was the best one.
Yep.
And, you know, my club coach tells me that I'm going to play in Division I baseball. Or my club coach tells me I'm going to play Division I lacrosse or so and so. And you're kind of like, okay, well, the fact you're 13 years old, I don't know what you're going to do. So, you know, there's a level of, you know, delusion sometimes, because listen,
there's no doubt.
If you can tell me at 14 that you're going to play Division I lacrosse, let me know what the lottery numbers are going to be for next week, because I will definitely be buying tickets. Because if you
got a clinic in AC next week, like, let me know so I can play.
Let me know.
You know what sport has in my opinion, and it's the women's side is not affected because it's not played in as many places around the world the way that it is for men. But men's soccer has been severely affected in the United States by the elite club culture, because what happens is, and Derek will soon find it out in a few years. But like my son plays football. But what happens in soccer is you have kids that, like, from the time they were like 2, start playing, and when they all end up going into rec, there are literally kids. And I happen to have coached this team, because I always tell people, it's like, I was obviously knew nothing about soccer, and I had 2 of these kids that were friends with my son on this team, and they just ran around and just scored it by everybody, and like I didn't do anything, you know. And so kids jump out of that sport because they think that they're not going to be good soccer players, and most of those kids are not big enough, not fast enough, not athletic, but they're more skilled than everybody else at a younger age. And soccer is everyone, and probably every kid's played at some point, like you could see the difference right away because most kids can't play at 7, 8 years old.
And that's why, again, I'm not an
and they
advocate.
could have been great, maybe.
I'm not an advocate of getting rid of the club because, again, like let's face it.
No, you should have club.
Absolutely. There's going to be that 8-year-old.
You absolutely should. I mean, I'm in it, so I know. Yeah, just like you.
That 8-year-old that throws 75 miles an hour and like no one can hit, and that kid needs to compete too.
Absolutely.
Right. Because a lot of times the higher level guys are the ones that kind of get pulled back.
I think there's like 3 levels. There's rec. There's what I call local club, meaning like you travel around the area. And then there's national, like or whatever you want to call it. Like kid who could really play at a high level, even when they're young. And I think kids should be able to move up and down the levels depending on where they are, but be realistic about where. That's the biggest thing is like,
right, the delusion.
Forming a team to go play at a national level that loses 5 games in a row doesn't make you a good baseball player.
But you just paid $5,000 to go do it.
Right.
Well,
like
I think a lot of
now you're getting into the economics of it, which is now there's certain places where they can afford the $5,000.
And we talk about the monetary investment of what you have to do. How much is too much? Are you paying for a trainer on Tuesday, Thursday? And a lot of that has to go with the keeping with the Joneses, because when Jimmy and Billy's moms are sitting in the stands and, Jimmy goes to training with this guy on these nights and he doesn't. Oh, well, he's the best player on the team. Well, my kid now has to go do this or do that. And I think a lot of that is that hearsay within the wanting to be in that clique group of, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want my kid to not do something that these others aren't. Right.
Or they don't know what to do.
Well, the education aspect of it.
I would know how to develop our kids, right?
Right. Or who to send them to, who's doing it the right way.
Because you're connected from being a coach. And you, as your kids come up, you'll know whether you want to do it, don't want to do it, what you want to do at home, what you don't want to do. Like, that's how I approach it with my kid. Like, okay, this area is not, my forte. Let me, if I think I can help him, I'll get help for him. I think that what happens is there are a lot of parents, and I do understand, this side of it. My kid is a good athlete. He enjoys sports. I wasn't that good of an athlete, let's say, per se, or I was an average athlete, and I don't know what to do. I see a lot of this because parents do ask me, right? I don't know what to do. I need to send them here, here, and here, and then they get caught in the trap. They find themselves caught in this trap. I've just talked with a couple of parents that I'm friends with, and I'm like, you could do whatever you want to do. It's your kid. You do whatever you want to do. But sometimes trainers, and I just know this because I'm around a lot of them, sometimes trainers, they know you have money, okay?
Absolutely.
And they're going to say, they're going to keep calling you to come train.
That's why my problem with the structure, okay, is not the model, it's the motivation.
Right.
And that's what it's
like. Are you doing it to help the kids, or are you doing it so you have a check?
Hey, I want to, any of us, a club coach. Hey, listen, I want to compete with this club because I want kids that want to play more whatever sport. Okay, that's different than, listen, if you come play for us, we're going to get you a college scholarship.
That's ridiculous.
That's bullshit. And I can't stand that. That's the shit that's...
Yes, and you're selling that to kids and parents. They hear that, and they're like, sweet. And then when it doesn't happen, you blame the kid. You're like, well, you weren't good enough. Well, that's not the way this works. And that happens so many times.
More than less now, and it's brutal.
I've heard parents say this to me, and it's people I'm friends with, and they know obviously I'm in it and everything, and they're like, "How do I get a scholarship?" And you've heard this, Derek, too, to high school. And I'm like, "What?" Like, I thought they were asking me about college. You know what I'm saying? Like, no.
I mean, there are parents that will. Oh, so how does this work? You just pay my kid?
You don't understand how the parochials work. Okay, if you have some money, unless you are paying, even if you are a really good player, you're probably paying. Okay, if they know that you have money, but if kids that really are not paying a regular amount to go to school are kids that the archdiocese can get the financial aid package back, and their cost to pay is only, let's say, $1,000 because they really have no money to begin with. Okay, that financial aid package comes back already reduced, and then maybe some guy goes and throws in 1,000 for them.
It's not even
that's what it is, right, Derek? I mean,
it's even that, and then you add on to the fact of, like, again, I think here at Summit, I think in regard to Summit football, we've been one of the more successful public school programs in the state.
Absolutely. No doubt.
Within that, in my 12 years, I think I've had to be, complete transparency. I think 3 full scholarship players. That's it. In 12 years with the success that we've had. So most of my kids that are going to college to play football are either they're paying something. Okay. Football helped them get, football helped.
Right. They got into that higher level academic because which they wouldn't have without football.
And what happens also is I think people they hear scholarship, especially in other sports. Like, people don't realize, like a lacrosse scholarship is like $1,000 for books.
Right.
Like, there's your lacrosse scholarship. You're still paying $60,000 to go to school. But
track, you're getting a piece of what another guy's getting
baseball,
too.
You're getting a piece. Like, that's the whole way this works. And I think
baseball's the craziest one of, like,
and the guy who's not,
you're still
the guy who's not is literally a first-round draft pick in baseball.
Exactly.
The guy's not
been drafted.
The one guy who's literally top 10 round guy,
And what's
they're trying to convince to go to college.
And this is what I say to a lot of people when they come and they talk about college recruiting. The whole thing is it aggravates me. I have a ton of close friends who've decided that they're going to coach at the college level. They're on the recruiting trails. They do all that. And again, I see what they do, and I'm like, I would never want to do what you do. Like, I just can't. I can't live on the road like you guys do. And the fact of the matter is, I get aggravated when your parents go, well, you know what? It's about, we want a place that's going to get more exposure. And my contention is, I feel like they really undermine, what these guys do. These guys are paid to find players. And in the college realm, if there's a player that can help them not only win, but keep their jobs, they're going to find that kid. And for me, it's like,
it's the next group of kids that they have a harder time with. It's not the top tier.
No, it's the ones that are right below that.
Yeah. But there is a lot of kids who aren't in the top tier that move up now, which is one of the nice things about
what's shifted within the recruiting world, right? Well, I'll go 2 years at a D3 and then I'll transfer up. But that's those guys, the non-slam dunks, call them Saturday players, right? Like in college, right? The TV players, the Alabamas, the power fours of the world. Those are the slam dunk guys, right? Those are the guys that can come in and they're on the 2 deep and they're an anchor roll away from playing as a true freshman. Those are the rarities of the world. The bulk is below that, where, Coach, like you said, we're living in, right, where they're a D3 player, or they're not a, quote, full money guy, but they're still, and that's the thing. The parents don't understand that even playing at a D3 is beyond anything they've ever imagined.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Every player is the best player. Mm-hmm. That was the star. And that's where that adjustment happens. And it's really difficult for those kids to now go sit the bench or do that.
In football, there was a brief time period. It happened to be like when I was running all the showcases around the country, there was a brief time period from like 2013, maybe like right around with COVID, 2019 time period, that brief window of time, the high school athlete in football was recruited more than anybody else.
Right.
More than anyone else. So there was that time period. I always feel like parents lag time period based off of what people have talked to them from years before of what they did. And they're lagged in the time period. I always found that even when I was doing those showcases, like when I was telling them that Twitter was more important. They were still stuck in whatever 2008 was. Mm-hmm. Like, so they're always in this lag time period because they talk to people who went to it before, parents who they knew from before, kid who's somewhere, and that's where they get their information. And that period is lagged. So there was that brief time period where high school was it's literally at its premium before the transfer portal became a big thing, and then NIL and all that kind of stuff, where exposure did help because of the 40 times and all those things prop a guy up. What happened was once you start to get GPS systems, once
that's what those times now.
Right. The GPS guys, once Huddle really became into its forefront, you could get it anywhere, right? And colleges now pay $75,000 to get that info, right? Yep. You get it on a spreadsheet. Once all that kind of caught up, and I talked to Derek about it because I used to run 100 events around the country, and now I'm running like almost none, right? We're just running like tournaments. So what has happened is that part of the process is not as important. Okay. What's important is now it goes back to kind of a little bit of the old school thing, whereas you've got to get your film in there. You've got to build relationships. They've got to see you. You know, you do have to go to some of their camps. That's true. Absolutely. And that has become a bigger thing. And yes, I'm not saying that, you know, if you dunk a basketball, do a 360 dunk with a basketball and you're a football player and you post it on Twitter, that coaches aren't going to know. Sure, that's freakish stuff, right? But outside of freakish stuff, you know, I would say, like, if you can walk in and run a 4.4 and legit 4.4, not BS, like laser time 4.4, and you can go and you walk in and you're 6'6". Okay, they're going to, you know, you're immediately anywhere you go, people are going to pay attention to you. But there's a very, very, very small group of people that fall into that window, and everybody else falls in somewhere else. So that's why the relationship part has become a bigger and bigger thing, especially for the high school kids now, because I could just go get at all levels, whether it's Montclair State or Alabama. I can go find another guy from another college that could fill my role right now. So if I'm going to recruit you in high school, I need to know that a lot of these other things are in check. Like, are you mentally ready to come and play? Are you willing to do the work necessary? Like, those things are like the work to put into work. Like, if I bring you into a college program, even at the Division III level, if I bring you into a college program, are you going to be able to handle that these guys are men? You know what I mean? Like, you're playing with men, and are you going to be able to handle it? And I think that's the thing that parents, to me, have yet to get a grasp of. That's why I say they're always a little bit behind on certain things. It makes it very hard. It's very hard for the high school coach who's at the forefront of all of this. Right? You're at the forefront, and you're kind of trying to explain it, and they're still referencing John Smith, who played in 2020 at, you know, Rutgers, let's say, and his process.
And that's where it goes back to kind of what we talked about, the evolution of coaching itself is now part of our responsibility as a high school coaches. We have to get them even more college ready.
100%.
They're now, it's just a completely different, it's a different entity now. It's a different game. You know, now you're not up against just other 17-year-old high school. Now it's kind of like, well, do I take this kid coming out of high school, or do I go in the portal and get a 22-year-old man?
Right.
Well, if they're going to, they need to know that what they're bringing in is exactly what they're looking for. And that's more than just, okay, hey, listen, you did well in your senior year. Like, again, that's everything for, like you said, okay, the responsibility aspect, the grades aspect, okay, the mental
side
mental
is
toughness.
How do you deal with injuries, right? Like this or that, or the maturity level, which that baffles me, because so much of that behind the scenes of just what's on tape is needed now to recruit a kid, where so many college coaches don't talk to high school coaches. They just kind of go like the direct correlation from player to coach without going over that head coaches is it baffles me. It's insane.
We've gotten very big here, I'd say the last 3 years, into sports psychology. And
we have one on every month, buddy.
we have one on staff.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
And
That's so awesome. We just talked about this.
We do a ton of things with our grades. Okay. Our senior groups, our junior groups, our sophomore groups. And for example, so we have a rotating schedule. So certain days, there's certain periods. We have lab days, whole thing. Well, all of our seniors, okay, on one day, all have the same lunch period. On that day, okay, we all sit down, myself, okay, our sports psychologist is also one of our coaches, along with our seniors, and they do all types of mental toughness activities. We do ways to dealing with anxiety, deal with pressure, all this kind of stuff. And again, we have to do all this because this is all part of training the athlete to be at the next level, because this is what's expected now. And I know for us, it's been huge. It's been a huge piece of our success because, again, like you said, coming out of COVID, there are other lasting effects. There are. Kids stayed home, so is there a change?
Missed that social window.
Yeah. Is there a change in thought process? There is. Okay. So now, the next evolution of coaching is we talk about, that we want to coach well-rounded kids. All right. Well, athletically, yeah, we're doing everything to get these kids, as good as they can athletically. We talk about academics. Yeah, we're pushing them, to be the best students they can be. What are we doing for them emotionally? What are we doing for them? The thought process, because you and I both know the next level, that's a huge piece of it. Now you're in a situation where everybody's as good as you are. Maybe you've never had to compete. You've been the best one. Now everybody's as good as you are. And now how are you going to push through? What's going to happen? And these are things that we need to teach. And again, coaches, educators, we're all the same. It's a different curriculum. And this is just the next evolution, sports psychology. And this is something that, I've sat down with a lot of the college guys on talking about kind of what they've done. And we've incorporated here. So, our kids do this a ton because it's incredibly important, especially with, a lot of things that are going on today.
It's huge.
There's no doubt about it. One of the things I was in discussion with another parent about, and we were talking about how in the old days, if you went from sport to sport, like with youth, you would have like a week off or something, like rest time. But now, if you gave a kid a week off and you have young, they'll literally, it's not like they're going to go out and grab their neighbor and just start playing. You know what I mean? Like in that week off, they're going to spend a week sitting
roadblocks for days
on roadblocks.
Absolutely.
So I'm like, I'll give kid a day off. Obviously, if he feels tired, but as far as like an extended rest period to recover for next sport, no way, because they're just literally going to sit on the couch. And so I'm like, okay, let's figure out how we can get you into the next thing to get your body moving. Like for me, it's as much I'm just always like, man, body moving. I got to get your body moving because, my son who loves to play sports, but he's no different than anybody else. He gets down there and starts playing Roblox for an hour. And then we're like, let's go work out. He goes, my legs are sore. I'm like, you know why your legs are sore? Because you were sitting in a weird position.
Yes.
Playing, you know what I'm saying?
Into this.
2 feet screaming
at
the
something you did.
Screaming at it. But again, and it's funny because here we actually I deal with both sides of that coin. I deal with that, but I also, you'd be amazed at how many times I've told my kids, I just want you to go home and do nothing. I just want you to relax.
They don't know how to do that.
One, it's if again, between our summer period, a lot of our kids, we do have a ton of multi-sport athletes and a lot of them play other sports, and they'll be on 17 teams. Okay. And the fact of the matter is, it's like, all right, listen, guys, we just did football stuff all week. I'd love for you just to take a weekend off or go on vacation. Don't do anything. Just let your body rest. Because you have been, been working out with us. Then you've been doing, your travel baseball. You've been doing a ton of your club lacrosse tournaments. All these types of things where you are just beating your body up, and then we expect you in the beginning of August to come in fresh, ready to go. I've told kids, listen, and this is why I love the dead period. I love the fact, listen, things have to get shut down.
Gotta have it. Yeah, because if not, they'll just keep going
on vacation. Go, just relax. Just shut it down for a week. Have the pizza and ice cream. Just be a kid. Just be a kid for a week. Don't worry. We'll be here when you get back.
And they'll come back so rejuvenated from that. And so, you know
Absolutely.
what I mean? It's like, it's a shot of cold water to the face of all right. And then, hey, maybe that where it was, because football
just don't take vacation during camp.
We're in the middle of the season when mom books a cruise for you because it's your birthday, but it's week 6.
I know you have that conversation every year.
Dealt with that too.
Right. Like, yo, practice starts. So, coach, I can't make practice. I got to.
We don't even do a dead period. I tell the kids, listen, you're allowed a vacation. So when you're everything is, listen, go away. All right. If you're here, I tell kids, I don't want you here all 7 weeks or whatever it is. I don't.
Right. Yep.
Go away. Go spend time with your family.
I'm not giving you a T-shirt for perfect attendance in the summer.
Listen, go away. Have that time because, again, let's face it.
You're not getting it back.
You're not getting it back. Family is something that we talk about. It's very important.
Right.
Once
you're going to preach family, but I'm going to tell you, don't go on family vacation.
No, go on vacation. Go down the shore, spend time with your brothers and your sisters and your uncle, whatever it is.
Yeah, come on down. My players will be your lifeguards. That's what I do.
That's it. Enjoy. Listen. It's. Don't get me wrong. I love my job, and coaching high school football is one of the greatest endeavors that I could think of. But it's high school football. Like, hey, you know what? If they're down the shore, we'll be okay. Like, we'll be fine, and that's something that I think that we've proven here.
And it also gives us an opportunity for that guy that's your backup to go. Let's see what he's got. Like,
absolutely.
You know what I mean?
It works out very well. And plus, again, and from parents, when you start telling them, hey, listen, you've got to be here every day in the summer. And especially here, kids have other things they can do. Like, I can't tell a kid, listen, you're not going on vacation. Like I wouldn't want that done with my son. Like, I want to be able to take my kids on vacation and just shut down and kind of recharge. I mean, it's been a year. Everybody deserves that. And I think that's something that's vitally important. So we really stress that in the summer. I mean, don't get me wrong, we get after it, but there's downtime.
There's also a quality over quantity too. If you're doing things the right way, do you really need to be going 4 days a week, all 4 in the weight room and on the field for 2.5 hours every morning in the summer? If you're really putting in what you really need to, right?
We practice more than the pros do. If you look at it,
that's a whole shit. That's a whole different thing. Those guys don't do that. Those guys aren't practicing like that.
At what point are you like, listen, less is more? Hey, let's take our time. Again, I want you to feel great come August. I don't need you to peak in July.
100%. And then by the time we get to August, right, you're burnt. You're done.
Yeah, you're shot. You're like, we've been doing this for how can you, if you go, and this is just always, if you start like that June 11th and you're going hard the whole way through to make it, our goal has always been, we're looking to play in late November, early December. That's when you want to play. You can't peak in September. It's way too early. And
right,
I mean, those 6 months straight, that's hard. I mean, that's hard for kids.
I've seen it where
we talk about that
week
a lot.
0 game. Yeah, like incorporating that week 0 game for us has been so pivotal because, look, like you're going all summer, so it's not a squeeze once the helmets go on. I got to get it in. It's all in, dude. Right? You know what I mean? Like we're just shining this thing up. Week 0 happening sooner than later, right? Where the kids are already chomping at the bit, right? You don't need these scrimmages or, you know what I mean? You don't need a million of these things to just bang around and do it. Dude, you're ready to go and the kids are ready to go. Like, let's get into game week. Let's get into the schedule. And now we'll start rocking and rolling. But, Coach, it's been awesome, man. I really appreciate you squeezing us in, taking the time. Like I said, you wear a lot of hats. You do a lot of shit. You know what I mean? But you do it right. And your program, obviously, and your kids benefit from it. So we appreciate it.
Guys, I really appreciate you having me on. This was a blast.
Thanks so much, Coach. It was great having you on. We'll talk to you soon, Coach.
You got it. Have a good one.
Thanks, buddy.
Bye. Good stuff. Really good stuff.
That's why you see why he wins, dude. And look, you get it, right? I would put Summit right in the categories of, your old Tapans of the world, your Ramapos, your Rumsons. Like, there's never a bad season, right? And yes, do those kids have the means to do some of those things, right? But for the most part, they're always steady Eddie. And
I mean, they have a little bit different issues than Old Japan. I mean, they're having extreme success, obviously, but Summit has some different. He touched on some of it, potential issues, meaning they are right in the middle of both Seton Hall and Del Barton, like smack dab in the middle, and very close to also St. Joe's Metuchen, right? The way they are. So even though they're somewhat immune in the sense that they're not right next door. So but they're close to all three, where Old Japan's actually close to none. So
I think
you
in
go
that
Old Japan, you really want to go parochial, which helps them a little bit, Summit doesn't have, but Old Japan also has a different demographic, so they don't have as many football players available. Everybody has their own issues. I would say that Summit really is has a great tradition too of football.
Well, I think that's something that keeps kids, and again, the high public school, but high academic standards, right? Like that for parents, right? Is because hey, I'm not sending my kid, the academics or whatever. Like they have that,
right?
And the proof is in look, again, like where do we send our kids? Like, oh, they go here. Oh, they go, you know what I mean? Like that adds to it. I mean, it helps having a head coach that obviously, played at,
college,
John Hopkins. You know what I'm saying? Like a really good school to kind of bridge that gap for a lot of guys. But dude, I mean, that's fucking, it's a lot.
Right.
But it's a really good place. And he runs the entire pretty much North-South game. He's the president of the NJFCA, which is our New Jersey Football Coaches Association here in Jersey. He's always in the limelight. He's always willing to help and do things, right? On top of, being, youth baseball commissioner for East Hanover and all that stuff. You know what I mean? Like, it's a lot of stuff to wear, but he does it at a high level, and he keeps the focus on the kids, which to me, when you do that, like not just talk about it, but you're about it, it's really cool to hear, guys, and how it's you see why guys
does a good job too of riding it. Like when he's got a good team, he rides that team. When he has a team that he's developing, and I think a public school, both the administration and the coach has to be willing to be like, okay, listen, there's going to be some years that we will, we're always going to be pretty good, but there's some years where we're not going to have as much as others for a variety of reasons. You might get an 8th grade group that 4 or 5 of the parents want their kids to go to parochial. It has zero to do with you. You know what I mean? And that's just what they're going to do. They may be superstar athletes, and that may just be what happens. You know what I mean? So, and you got to ride it out. And then you have a class of kids that all want to stick together. And then you have a fantastic team. And I think in public school, that's one of the things that both coaches and the administrations, I do think, have to be on board with. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like there are, it's really not. Look, if someone's going 2-9 every year, okay, I get it. You know what I'm saying? I understand that. But like, but if they're kids, they have a great year, and then the next year they're 6-4 or something, and then that kind of, I used to call it the old Lodi, the Lodi method. Tarico he understood Lodi really well. There would be some years where they'd have great teams, and there would be some years that he's got to ride a 4-6 out. You know what I mean? But that team would end up being 10-2 2 years later. You know what I'm saying? And he always did a great job of that. And I think, when you grow up there and you know what kind of Lodi is, but he was such a high level guy in the administration there that they were willing to always obviously do it all the way till he retired. But I think that, in public schools, if you have that philosophy, that you want to win every single year championship, but understanding that there might be some years where you don't have enough of those guys,
or even a year like this. And this kind of goes to their culture, right? Like he's talking about, like, hey, here we are. We got a 3-year starting quarterback coming back, right? And all this, we're good to go. Where this is going to be a great year, right? Boom, kid blows his Achilles in the spring. Oh shit! But culture. Another guy steps in, you're good to go. You know what I mean? Like, okay.
Did he have a kid blow his Achilles?
That's what he said. He just had this conversation. He had a high level. His quarterback was going to be a 3-year starter, but also a very high level lacrosse player. Blew his Achilles in the season, and then all of a sudden, it's like he has his best athlete receiver kid say, "Coach, I'll play quarterback." All right, now let's pivot.
You know what causes that? Just from the research I'm doing, you wear cleats so much, dude. If you play both lacrosse and football,
and they're brutal.
and you're not just wearing cleats. Like baseball players wear cleats, but they're running the first base. They're standing a lot.
Yeah,
They're not. They're not.
And we've had the conversation of quality of shoe.
Across, you're running a lot.
Dude, you're all and you're pivoting. You're doing this. You're doing that. Like even with football, you get that break in between plays. Lacrosse, you don't stop, dude. It's like soccer.
And if you're doing both of those in season, like which a lot of kids obviously,
I've been really trying to
get
one. I've been trying to get a classmate of mine from high school on. He's just so extremely, dude. He's an Achilles rehab specialist, right? Like this is what, like, I mean, we're talking 20 clients a day of whether it's on the phone or he moved down to
or
rehab. Why this is such a thing nowadays. You know what I mean? He was a year ahead of me, played hoops with me. His sister was an unbelievable basketball player at Butler, 2,000 points, 1,000 rebounds, like went to Stony Brook, played overseas, the works. And he was always the twin of your sister's better than you. But it was awesome. But dude, and I've been trying so hard to like, dude, give me 45 minutes, to just talk about that because it's such a big thing now. And even the rehabs of, look, when Dan Marino blew his Achilles, you're like, it's over. He's done. Now, and then he was like the first one to actually, but now you see it happening so much, especially in the NBA with some of these guys, dude, like Kobe, bam, like, Tatum, bam, like it's just such a more of I would love to have him on to have that conversation about Achilles because it's the new ACL.
So do you remember yesterday with the Minnesota State track coach, I brought up fascia training?
Yes.
I know sometimes I see your face. I'm like, oh my God. Like she was bringing up like, he's going into like fucking the science experiment here. But like fascia training is really interesting because
I've understood the fascia world since I had my surgery for the tumor in my arm because they had to obviously cut through that to find they had to cut through the fascia. It's what holds your tendons close to your bone and all that stuff. Like, so they had to cut through that in order to get to the tumor. And that's not something like, right. Yeah. And listen, it doesn't heal, right? Like there's still a hole that I can literally put through. And, that's why I still have a bulge of like in that spot on my arm because the muscle and stuff comes through that hole of where the fascia is. Right. So I've understood some of that and you'll be, dude, I'm working on it too. Like I have my orthopedic oncologist. He's going to be on the show in 2 weeks to talk about some of the stuff that he's doing in terms of holistic medicine now that as he's moving away from sarcoma removal and tumor removal.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he's going to be coming on, Dr. James Wittig, who's been my oncologist since 2008. Awesome dude. And jacked out of his mind, by the way, as a physician. Like this guy's unbelievable. Graduated from Seton Hall. He ran the orthopedic oncology department at Morristown Memorial, like renowned doctor. So he'll be on to talk about some of these things. But he's overall like a sports guy, right? So even though he's an oncologist and his focus has been on like tumor removals and, Ewing sarcomas, right? Like a lot of this athletic, like tumors that are near the muscle or the bone, or, he's specialized in limb saving surgery for the most part. You know what I mean? Like to have him talk about some of this stuff and how he's moving into this world of more holistic stuff, right? Of getting away from, I don't want to just have to go and cut you, right? Well, like whole thing, the fascia world is so interesting, dude.
It is because that's the Achilles, that's your feet, right?
That's where it all starts from the bottom up.
And if I didn't have a kid that had the growth issue,
right, you wouldn't have known.
I wouldn't have known, dude. So I started diving in, and obviously I had to heal first, right? But
of course,
listen, I'm telling you, obviously we're doing working out stuff and we're running and all those things, he's playing sports for most, but I'm doing a ton of this stuff and it's like I always go back to the gym class stuff.
It's so interesting because the fascia itself, Dave, like
but the fascia itself jacks in the old days, right? You don't do jumping jacks now, right? So
why kids can't jump rope, dude.
That's what I'm saying. Those are forms of fascia training. Now they've evolved it because they know that kids aren't jump roping, and so they a little bit isometric. But But it's really interesting because what I've noticed happening in a fairly quick fashion, and kids are obviously more resilient, so they can make these improvements quicker than adults. But I've watched them go from because almost protecting that foot, like literally protecting the foot, and
like
like
babying it.
Yeah, just not. Well, I was watching it in football season. Even
And
when
is there anything you can do for that? Can you like wear a brace or whatever? Is that
You
one of
can,
those
it's-
things that you're like? Is it's more
we
mental of
did,
like, hey,
we
I'm
did
gonna get
all
this
that.
taped forever? But you know what I mean? Like sometimes that in itself is like, hey,
Eventually,
like,
you got to let it heal and then
no
rehab.
shit.
You got to rehab. So like we rehabbed with Bobby's group. They did a great job. Like it was mostly during the season, so we would remain, even though he had healed from it, it was still a problem, right? And so, but she was great. She's like, it's not going to get better until you're
If you
healed.
heal it, yeah.
But no, it's healed, but you're not gonna until you get out of the season and could do some real like not wearing cleats in the game. So we no cleats. We went to no cleats other than game, all that kind of stuff. And by the end of the season, we started to I could see it, but he was still.
I'll tell you this too, and this is my own personal thing. Like I think a lot of these kids now, they are like their feet, ankles, all that stuff is screwed up because they don't even like when they're not doing a sport, they're wearing slides, they're wearing
I agree with
some
that.
type of
I agree.
non-athletic shoe. Whereas, dude, if we left the house,
barefoot. They should be barefoot.
Remember, like you wore sneakers, like
yeah,
majority of the day was spent in sneakers, not in slides, not in
I hate slides.
moccasins or whatever, or Uggs or whatever these things that have zero support, dude. Like
they all do what everybody else does, right? They're all like big drones. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, like they all have their own personalities, but like they if this is perceived as cool, they want to do it, unless it's dangerous to them. Like that's
Correct.
what I noticed. Like if a kid does something that's crazy, they'll be like that kid's crazy. But like stuff like slides is a great example that you bring up. They see it on YouTube. Okay, they see players go into this on YouTube. They say this go on in YouTube. They see
they do
this
it.
guy, right? So now they do. They want them, right? So
Dave, you could see it. Like, remember when we used to, you would take your socks and you would pull them down over your heels so the sock wouldn't show. Like, remember?
Right,
do you remember
doing
that?
Yes.
And then after that, it was like everybody's wearing mids, right? Like everything is coming high above the ankle or whatever. I call it like the sock trend, right? Then it was black shoes, black socks, or then it was white socks, black shoes. Like the sock trends to me just tells me you know how many guys, and we've made this a rule, like you got to wear sneakers when you're working out, dude. Like the barefoot thing is different. We actually we'll constitute like certain days where you'll squat in barefoot. Right. Maybe look, I want you to do the dot drill barefooted, or I want you to, let's go through the ladder today. No
dot
shoes,
drill is great.
Whatever. Yeah. Cause dude, every day in the warm up. But I think, dude, like, you know how many times you look at it and I'm like, buddy, take off you can't work out in Uggs right now. Like, or you have to, how about this one? You have to tie your shoes. Like, because you had that Michigan quarterback years ago that didn't tie his shoes. And now all of a sudden these guys are like, I'm not tying my shoes, whatever. But it's like, dude, like I think that has a lot to do with some of that stuff, right? Because they're not in a supportive shoe all the time. And they're just like, now, okay, that'll build ankles. No, dude, you're walking around in slides. Like
the other thing too is like, so, and you're talking to a guy, I don't know how you were with lifting. I was huge lifting guy. Okay. So like when I was younger, even in the beginning of coaching, I mean, even still when I was at RBR, I was still kind of big and, I was always a speed guy. Speed change, coaching track started to change my thought process. Like, because when I was an athlete, I was
and you having that, you and Siraj, my buddy that I worked with at Mount Olive, right? Changed my whole, have opened my eyes. And obviously Mike, since he got down to Florida, talking about the track stuff. Like it's opening my eyes to the track stuff. It has been big, right? Because again, I didn't know that world. I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, so now to have that kind of background where I can go and somebody gives me a time, I can, for the most part, you know, in my head, compute that into, all right, football terms, you know what I mean? Or whatever that is.
And the fact
Because
that
look, that's what college guys ask about.
the fact that sprinting is
What's his 100?
Is the most is deemed the most explosive thing you could do. It is really kind of
You see the statistic of what age it is where we as adults never sprint again? Like the percentage of guys that sprint, it's like 2 point something % of humans never sprint after age 30 ever. Like ever. I mean, shit, when's the last time you went top speed?
I haven't since he was like 5 years old. So,
last time I did was running down the sideline to celebrate, and I blew a calf. Like
we used to race. Well, my whole thing when I raced, because I know I was like when he was 5 and 6,
you'd win.
That my knee wasn't good, and I couldn't sprint the way that I used to anymore. So I just try to turn my legs over fast. And that's how I would have to outrun him because I can't like drive the same way that I used to be able to drive.
There's no way I could, right? And if I did,
I look like Roadrunner.
Okay. Listen, I should, because then it would probably explode something, and then I could get a knee replacement sooner than later. Who, by the way, our guy from the University of Miami, baseball guy, just had his other one done. So that's 2 knee replacements before 45, and he's loving life.
He likes it.
He's like, I can't believe how good I feel. I'm doing box squats. I'm jumping off boxes. I'm doing verts.
Does he feel like it? I wonder if he feels like it's robotic or anything.
No, he said it doesn't feel like that. Even talking to Coach Garrett at Kane, who's had both hips done, has said, dude, I just feel like a total human. I don't feel like a bionic man. And what he did reference, though, was how much it's changed in just the 2 years in between he's had both, where just the whole
recovery,
the pre and post is
robot
so different.
Now. It's all robot.
Everything is.
It's all robot.
Right. Which Dr. Wittig, who's coming on, we'll talk about that because he's still a hands-on surgeon, like no robot type thing. Dude, look him up. Look at Google him and just see some of this stuff because he's one of those doctors too that posts pictures of everything, and it's like, whoa. Like, whoa. He's awesome. But as of now, we're good till next week. Monday, we have Coach Brian White, the running backs coach from Bowling Green, who has had numerous high-level running backs, including Ron Dane.
Wow.
Yeah,
Where's he from?
Coach White?
Yeah.
He's a Northeast guy. He's original. Listen, he was at Syracuse, I believe, with McNabb and those guys. He had Ron Dane. He's been at
he's been around.
He's been all over. He's been at when I met him, he was at Florida with Coach Muschamp. And then he was at Colorado State with Adazio. And now he's at Bowling Green. And he's also he also does a lot of this. He just came out with a book. You Can't Buy the Locker Room. It's on Amazon, one of the best sellers right now. So that's cool. But he does a lot of the every coach thinks they can cook and grill and do all this shit. So he does that. So he's a foodie, which is awesome. Funny. And he also has a son who is coaching. I want to say he went to Marshall, and I think he's I don't think he's still at Marshall, but he's in the higher level coaching ranks. So, and he's a really good dude. Like he's awesome. Like he's a really cool guy. Interesting cat, but been a lot of places. So it'll be cool to talk to him about, kind of how he does things. And I mean, his longevity as a freaking, you know what I mean? College coach, which is crazy.
No doubt about it. It's, that'll be great. I mean, you're really getting some like diverse and cool guests. And,
well, listen, I'm not saying it's easier now, but I'm saying it's kind of off season for some of these guys, and they can have the ability to not that they don't want to do it anyway. Because
AI has made this imaging stuff kind of cool.
Yo, that stuff is so funny, buddy.
It's so cool, dude.
Georgia was like, "Oh my god, that looks exactly like me." I was like, "Yeah, I know."
It kind of like that, Derek. If I had to do that the old way, I could not do that. I would have to hire a graphics person, which would not make it financially feasible, right, to
Not
hire
at
them.
all.
So it's amazing what you can actually do. I mean, we got to enjoy it. So we all
I
get.
think you'll also like I think you'll also like our guest on Tuesday, Luke Hatfield. He's an OC down in South Carolina too. Does some quarterback stuff. So it'll be cool to talk to him. And then he's at I believe it's Red Hound High School in South Carolina. And then Chris, Wednesday, we have Chris Haddad. I think that's how you say it. Yeah, Haddad. He's a he created Victory Sports. He's a Massachusetts guy. So he's also a DC and a receivers coach, but more youth, more like the focus is more on developing youth players, right, in that world, you know, on and off the field. So that's like his whole thing with Victory Sports and whatnot, and why he created it. Not just the physical stuff, but like the mental stuff for more youth guys, which will be cool to kind of dive into his world. We haven't had a Massachusetts guy in a little bit, so
very cool.
Should be good.
That sounds great. I'm looking forward to it. All right, man. We'll have a great day and enjoy your weekend.
Yeah, but it's warming up a little bit, so I think we're good.
Oh, and then yes, absolutely. And then Sunday night we have
practice. I saw Warren the other day. Yeah, he said the first workout. You think the field will be good with the field?
Well, I'll go check it out. Probably I'll wait till Saturday. Because by then I'm gonna wait.
Yeah, because I don't know if we're supposed to get. I don't think we're getting anything.
No, I don't think we're getting anything. So it's warm today. It hopefully and then all of a sudden we'll be in that mix there. And I'm finalizing. I'm going to order uniforms. I was trying to order them last night, but I still had a few more people that wanted to get their stuff in. So I said I'll wait till today. But like we're up against it. Like have 2 weeks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, especially because March is. I mean, that's creeping up.
First tournament. Yep. So I got it.
And I do have people reaching out about some of the big man stuff. Is that going to be tied? Like, because they're asking about dates specifically. We're going to tie that to each one of those tourneys, right? So they'll all be the Sundays, right? So it'll be like, the 1st, the 8th, you know what I mean? Like the 1st, the 8th, the 29th, the 12th, right? But those are all individual, right? Like they're not, if they sign up, they're going to sign up for each one.
If they sign up as an individual, so they can sign up as an individual, and then we'll put them on like a team,
no, but I mean, like if they would have to sign. Can they sign up for all of them if they want, or they can sign up for each one? Okay.
You mean one clip sign up for all of them?
Yeah. Can they do that, or they have to
doing resorts one by one type of deal?
Right.
I'll create a page on my football camps for that.
Well, I'm only asking because Pacheco was asking.
Yeah, I'll create a page for that. People are starting to ask about that stuff, and I started sending some kids on Twitter, like if they don't have a team.
Yeah, and I know, like, what's his name? Like Skinner emailed us about doing that kind of stuff.
Wants to do it.
He's always. I love how he always signing up multiple teams. He's like, well, one is this organization, one is this. Like,
that one's gone. This team's no longer there. I listen, as I go through it, when I go through my teams now, I just tell the people straight up front, like the one age group, 13, 14, 15, I'm kind of like, that's a mobile age. No, that has to be a mobile age group where basically 13s can play with 14s. 14s can play with 15s,
right?
Because it's
like you're always gonna have something, but it might be this weekend. It might be 13. This weekend it might be 14.
I've learned that with that age group.
That age group is a funny group.
It's just a fluid group because they're all kind of anyone who's playing 13, 14, or 15. They're all in this. If they're playing, they're usually in the same puberty level, meaning they're all
absolutely. Yeah, they're all in the same.
One might be older than the other, but they're all physically able to handle it.
No doubt.
So from that standpoint, otherwise they probably wouldn't be playing 7-on-7 if they're not physically mature yet. Very few kids, 14 that aren't physically mature are going to put their kid in 7-on-7. Like that just doesn't make sense. So, but anyway, all right, man. Have a great day, dude. Great job.
I got it, buddy.
All right.